Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game from the Hangzhou Grandmaster tournament currently being played. It's a tournament organized so Ding could play enough games to qualify for the FIDE candidates tournament, basically, as he is the highest rated player in the world, except for Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja. Okay, now he overtook Firouzja in the live ratings as he already won 5 games in this tournament, but he is the next one to qualify as Alireza is already qualified, so it wouldn't really even matter if Alireza was higher rated than him. So you guys requested a game from this tournament. I thought this one would be a nice one, as he's playing against his old rival by Jinshi. If you remember, in 2017, the two of them played a game that, many, myself included, deemed Ding's immortal game. If you still haven't seen it, do check it out. I will put a link to it in the description below. First thing you'll see, check it out. It's from 2017, so videos were only at 30 frames per second back then, but it's the game that counts. So let's dive into it, and then we're going to discuss the current situation in the world and a few words about the candidates tournament and what we know about it so far. So Ding has the white pieces and he opens with d4. We have d5, a c4, e6, knight to c3, and c5. By Jinshi goes for the Tarrasch defense, and c captures on d5. We have e captures and knight to f3, knight to c6, and now even though most players play just g3 here, this is by far the most played move here. D captures on c5 is the engine's preferred move, even though most people don't play it because it just gives the black a lot of initiative. But the Ding actually plays this, and he says he wants to win absolutely every game here, which is pretty incredible. I mean, even if you imagine anyone playing against strong grandmasters, and these are grandmasters 2650, 2600, it's very hard to beat all of them all the time. But so far Ding won the first 4 games and he wants to win the next one as well. So d4, grabbing more space here, attacking the knight, knight to a4, defending the c5 pawn. But this is all very well known theory. Bishop captures, knight captures, and now we just win back the knight with this check. Queen delivers check, goes after the knight, bishop d2, and queen captures on c5. And now Ding goes for b4. This is incredibly sharp. It has been played before, and if the pawn is captured, for example, knight captures on b4, we can play rook c1, and then, well, you just don't want to play this against Ding, especially if you don't have it prepared. Let's say queen goes here, e3, and now it looks very, very unpleasant. Most likely black will have to allow white to capture this pawn with the knight, because if you further capture, then it's not gonna be pleasant. So instead, after b4, queen to f5, and now there is a game in the database where g4 was played, and this is really awesome, b4 and g4. But the problem is, even though it looks extremely sharp after something like queen e4, let's say queen b1, white can force a queen trade or force the black queen to go to a silly square. So Ding doesn't want to allow this. So instead, after queen to f5, we have rook to c1, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. Knight to f6 by continuous development prepares the castle, and now rook c5, attacking the queen here, queen to d7, and now b5. Challenging the knight here, knight to d8, and now bishop to b4. So really putting pressure on black's position, asking black, are you interested in castling here? And this could be the absolute best move for black, but it's very hard to go after this. I mean, the bishop is controlling this diagonal. The thing is, if you castle here, Ding would play something like rook c1, open up and attack towards the rook, and after the rook moves, play queen captures on d4, win the pawn back, and after queen captures on b5, e3, now opening up a discovery here, attacking the queen, and it would be, well, it would be a very, very dynamic game where Ding would have the bishop pair. He's up in development. It would not be easy for black to play this. So instead, knight to e6 first, attacking the rook, rook to c4, and now knight to d5, attacking the bishop here, and now Ding captures on d4. We have knight captures on b4, so he gives up this very strong bishop, will allow black to castle, rook captures on b4, and now black castles kingside. And now finally pawn to e3, defending this knight. knight. So far, black is playing this very well. He still has this issue of queen being on d7. He has to waste a move developing the queen so he can develop the light square bishop and then connect the rooks. If he can do that, then black will be fine. So queen e7, this is how we do it. We attack the rook, and now we can move our bishop. Queen d2, developing while defending, and rook to d8. We have bishop to e2, and now knight captures on d4, rook captures on d4, and bishop to e6 now, so our rook can defend this rook as well. We have castles by Ding, and now rook captures on d4, queen captures on d4, and just b6 now. So black pretty much managed to develop all of his pieces, and the question is, what can Ding play here? So do you defend the pawn? That's the question, as the bishop is attacking the pawn. And pretty much everyone would just play a4 here automatically, but then you give black the open d file for the rook, and that means that you're probably not going to win this game. So Ding offers a pawn to go for activity. He plays a rook to d1. Now he grabs hold of the d file, and this means that black can capture on a2, and this is definitely the best thing for black. So here by Jinshi captures on a2. We have bishop to f3 now, taking away the a8 square from the rook. Also, you can go to d8. So rook to c8, and now even bishop to b7. So now we're slowly taking away the squares from the black rook. Of course, if queen captures bishop, then we just deliver checkmate. Of course, everyone sees that, but just in case. So after bishop b7, rook to c5, and now comes queen to d8 check. It's not an offer of a queen trade, because if black captures, black just gets checkmated. So queen to f8 is forced, and now h3. Ding creates some breathing room for his king, because the queen still cannot be traded off. Black will get checkmated. So bishop b3, forcing the rook away from the back rank. Now rook to d4, and g6 now, finally giving the king some breathing room, but this also means you allow a move like queen to f6. Now Ding is threatening rook to d8, which would end the game. So rook to f5, going after Ding's queen, queen to h4, and now what do you play here? Well, best for black would be just rook to h5. Point is that if Ding continues with queen f6, you go back, rook f5, rook h5, rook f5, rook h5. And if you go something like queen to e4, then we capture on b5. And here, if black can resist white's attack, then black has two connected pass pawns on the queen side. Should be very good for him. The problem is, after something like queen d3, we are attacking the rook and threatening rook to d8. So you have to play queen to c5 to parry both threats. Now let's say rook d8 check, king g7, and the rook to c8, going after some back rank ideas. The problem is, after queen to b4, we can play queen d8, but now king h6, and black escapes. But who would see all of this, and who would even consider, after all of this, playing king to h6? The queen here guards the f8 square, so you cannot check the black king, and you are actually perfectly fine here. But that's the price of not being able to calculate all of this. So here, queen to c5 was played, and it makes sense. You really want to get the queen away from that back rank, otherwise you would just lose the queen. But now Ding is completely winning, but the move that is required to win is so complicated and so crazy that well, I'm impressed that even Ding found it. It's a must-play move. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find this incredibly difficult move to spot while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this brilliancy. You are a true master of the game. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's bishop to a8. I'm only joking. It is bishop to e4. That's the move. And well, what do you make of this? The point is, if you don't move the rook, Ding will just capture it, and that's a game over. So there's really nothing to be done there. So the only option is to move the rook. Where do you move the rook? Okay, the bishop controls this, the bishop controls this. You could play something like maybe rook to g5. Okay, if you try something like rook to g5, then obviously you get f4, so even more squares will be taken away from the rook. If you play rook to h5, then queen to f6. Again, we are just going after that checkmate. So the only move that makes sense is rook to e5, but now comes the real threat that Ding found when he played bishop to e4, and that is bishop captures on g6. So you have to see bishop e4, bishop captures on g6 to solve this. Obviously you have, and well, that's just it. Point is, if h captures, we just play rook to d7. Sorry, not rook to d7, rook to d8, check, and now what do you play here? Well, you can start giving away some pieces, because after you move the king, just queen to h8 will be checkmate. So you're going to have to give up the queen here, and that's game. So instead, after bishop g6, f captures on g6 was played, there is nothing better, and now rook to d7, now threatening queen captures on h7 with check, followed by queen to f7 checkmate, bishop to f7 blocking rook's attack of the h7 pawn, but now queen to f6. Now we are controlling these squares, and the rook to d8 again becomes a terrible threat, and there's no perpetual for black or anything. There's no way for black to deliver any checks. There is queen to c1 check, which was actually played in the game, but after king to h2, it was in this position on move 36 that Liren, or rather by Jinshi, resigned the game, and a brilliant victory for Liren, who wins his 5th game in a row, which is simply incredible. 5 classical games in a row against strong grandmasters, and you've seen how well by Jinshi played this. It all came down to this. After queen to h4, does he find this rook to h5 that leads to that mess of a position that we discussed, where the king has to hide all the way to h6, or some crazy line like that, or he plays just queen to c5? It seems like he solved everything, but there is the brilliancy, bishop to e4, bishop captures on g6, which Ding found, and I mean, wow. Incredible stuff. And as promised, we said that we are going to discuss the standings. So these are the standings, not the standings, or rather the current situation in the world. So you can see that Ding overtook Firouzja in the live ratings, but it's already 30th of March, so 2 more days, and then the ratings will be official. So Ding should be the second highest rated player in the world, but it wouldn't really matter, because if even if Firouzja was higher rated than Ding, Firouzja is already qualified for the candidate, so Ding would be the highest rated player, unless he drops below Aronian, which is very unlikely. So it's basically up to Ding to just play the required amount of games to be able to qualify for the tournament. But I just thought it's been a while since we've checked out the World Top 20. So it's Carlsen, Ding, Firouzja, Caruana, Aronian, Wesley So, Rapport, Nepomniachtchi, Mamedyarov, Giri in 10. On 11 we have Nakamura, also one of the participants of the candidates tournament. Rajabov, also playing in the candidates tournament. Dominguez Perez, Anand, Duda, Vasher Lagrav, Karyakin, Wang Hao, Grishuk, and Topalov still hanging in there in number 20. And these are the candidates so far, if you guys forgot. So Yanni Pomnishi is playing in the candidates tournament, as he was the 2021 World Chess Championship runner-up. Then Temur Rajabov, he is a candidate nominated by FIDE, because he qualified for the previous candidates tournament, and then the whole COVID situation broke out, and then he said he will not play. Which was kind of the correct decision, as FIDE had to stop the candidates tournament and resume it at some other point. So it would probably be best if they just did it right away. But okay, FIDE felt bad, and then they offered him a spot in the next candidates tournament. Then you have the 2 finishers, the 2 top finishers of the Chess World Cup 2021. They were Young Krzysztof Duda and Sergei Karyakin, who is disqualified due to current events, and he will be replaced by whoever is highest rated. That is still to be decided, as you see in the end. Highest rating for May 2022, which will probably be Liren. Then the 2 top finishers in the FIDE Grand Swiss Tournament of 2021, Alireza Firouzja and Fabiano Caruana, and the 2 top finishers of the FIDE Grand Prix 2022, Hikaru Nakamura and Richard Rapport. So those are the candidates. Unless something spectacular happens, we now know all of the 8 candidates, and we think that it's gonna be a great. So we'll see if Magnus will stay true to his words. Or will he get motivated to maybe even play someone else if even Alireza doesn't win the candidates. But I mean, if Ding, for example, wins the candidates tournament, it's very unlikely that Magnus would not be motivated to play against Ding. I mean, he's a monster. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will keep you informed, of course, of Ding's progress during this tournament. Stay tuned for that. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Aryan Bulgarian, and I would like to thank Rip Stefan Arnold Shelp, Pascal Poirer, Mladen Đurić, and Adam Tomček for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of everything that's happening in the chess world, and of course checking up on your wonderful suggestions. So thank you all. I will see you soon. Have an excellent rest of your day, and do check out Ding's Immortal, first link in the description. See you soon.